You've seen the headlines. America is facing a growing talent gap in the skilled trades. Jobs are open, industries are expanding, infrastructure needs rebuilding, and yet the workforce is shrinking. So the real question is, how are we going to respond? Welcome to Skilled Nation, where hard work meets real opportunity. From welding and electrical to HVAC and the trades that keep this country running, this is where skills turn into careers. Skilled Nation is sponsored by Tulsa Welding School. It's a way of life, a badge of honor. Today on Skilled Nation, the future of the workforce starts here, and we're starting with Jessica Bruner from Arouet.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And, we're going to talk about Arouet shortly, but first, let's talk about the big picture, this gap that we keep hearing about. Define the problem.
Yeah, so I would say that for decades, we have found ourselves in a situation where we've promoted these four-year degrees and that college is the only way for success. And all parents want their children to do something different than they did. And so we see this huge gap in workforce, especially as it relates to construction and trades. But the numbers are staggering. Just this year alone, construction companies and the trades industries are looking at about 195,000 open jobs. And that number is only exponentially growing as our infrastructure grows here in Arizona. And so there is this huge problem with getting the right talent to look at trades and construction as a viable career, reduce some of the bias and the myths of going into that sector of work, and bringing people into that fold. And that's where Arouet and other nonprofits and other trades come into this picture as we start to look at providing solutions to these workforce and talent gaps.
So, Jessica, as people go through their day, right, they're thinking about their concerns, their day, their schedule, the things they got to get done. And, you could kind of stay in your lane and have blinders on to other kinds of problems. But this particular problem, can you explain, does this affect everybody? Whether it's in their consciousness or not, this is going to come home to roost, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're looking at this infrastructure of trades and construction in the economy, not just here in Arizona, but nationwide. When there is a talent gap and a shortage of workforce, it slows projects down. Mm-hmm. And when projects slow down, the cost of living rises. So you're looking at we're in a huge housing a huge housing shortage in the nation, about 3.5 to 5 million houses short for the number of population. And if we can't get people into these skilled positions to help build out these planned housing developments to fill that gap, you're going to see the cost of living rise exponentially when it relates to mortgage, rent, or even just economic stability in your neighborhoods.
You hear people, they're beating the drum, affordability. I never connected that the gap in the skilled trades is contributing to that.
It is. So I want you to think about when we have a shortage of a food product like eggs. We know that there was a huge crisis with eggs here in Arizona, right? Bird flu. The cost of eggs exponentially rose. Mm-hmm. Insane.
Everybody notices that.
And everybody noticed, right? The talent gap, this workforce gap, is the same concept. When you have a large number of open jobs, and it is related to the building up of a community in any way, shape, or form, you're going to see the same effect. It is going to affect our everyday affordability. Mm-hmm.
But there's more dots to connect there, right?
There is.
It's really easy to say, okay, there was a disease. We had to cull a bunch of chickens, so there's fewer chickens laying eggs, and so eggs got more expensive. What you're talking about is a much broader picture, and that's kind of what you're addressing every day with Arouet. So let's talk a little bit about this. The skilled trades. the workers, right? They're affecting not just housing, but every system. When you talk about a project, if I'm sitting in traffic because there's lane closures and infrastructure, it's all of that too. It's touching our lives. Like, how many different touch points into every individual's life can you make because of this gap?
I'm going to tell you that all of our roads and the fact that it takes years. I don't know how many of you travel on the 101. The 101 has been under construction for at least the last decade.
Forever.
Right?
Forever.
And the reason why it takes so long for those construction projects to come to fruition is because of labor shortages. And so that affects your everyday life. That extra 45 minutes that you have to leave your family to get to work on time, or the hour it takes you to get home because of congestion and lane closures, all of that affects you in some way, shape, or form. Anytime you're trying to get into a neighborhood, you want your kids to go to a certain school district, and you're trying to get into that neighborhood, and you're waiting for a house to come on the market, and they're not available. People are sitting on houses, they're renting them out. You want to buy. That is because of labor shortages. If we can't get these apartments built and we can't get these housing structures and developments built in a timely fashion, more and more people struggle to get their houses on the market, which means that that's preventing you from getting into the neighborhoods that you want to get into. And we could sit here all day and connect how the smallest inconvenience in your life is directly connected to the labor shortages here in Arizona and nationwide.
So people don't get into problems or bad situations on purpose.
Correct.
It just happens, right? So let's talk culturally and in terms of our education infrastructure. We've already discussed how, parents and career counselors in high schools, they're very biased toward the 4-year degree. But also culturally, what's happening that is creating the shortage? We're not doing this on purpose. We don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. So why are we here?
Yeah, there has been a stigma that it's a certain type of person that goes into construction or trades. You look at the 90s when construction and trades were booming, and there was a huge influx of people going into that line of employment. Our high school dropout rate was exponentially high. Data shows that that's not so much the case anymore in the last 10 to 15 years. The number of students that we have graduating high school is so much higher. And although it is much easier to get funding into colleges, we haven't really seen much of an influx in college enrollments. But what we have seen is people going more into other industries, technology being a very big winner in that race. And so culturally, we have kind of put a stigma on what it means to work construction or trades. You're low educated. It's not really a career. It's not great pay. There are no benefits. There's no retirement. All of those are myths. Today, most people within the first 3 years of working in these specific trades industries make about $60K a year. Mm-hmm. There are benefits, there's retirement, there's tuition reimbursement. There are so many benefits to going into these lines of work. We just don't talk about it enough. We don't have enough people talking about the honor that lays within that industry.
And you're sitting with it every day. Describe it with the numbers. You mentioned data in your just previous response.
Yeah.
Describe it with data for me, this gap and this issue that we're facing.
Yeah, so we're in 2026, and right now these trades, we're talking plumbers, HVAC, manufacturing, construction. Companies in the Valley are reporting that they need about 195,000 employees to sustain the growth. And that number grows year over year up into 2030, where we're looking at almost 500,000 in gaps of talent if we don't find a solution now. Furthermore, I will tell you that we are in a position in this state specifically, as we see these huge West Valley build, right? We've got the CHIPS Act that came in, and we've got all of these jobs opening up in the West Valley, which means that we also have housing projects, and we have shopping malls, and we have all of this construction scheduled out in that 303 corridor. Those projects are scheduled to be completed in the next 2 to 3 years, and those construction companies are scrambling to figure out how they can get enough people working to make sure that they can meet those deadlines. And we're going to continue to see this huge gap if we don't do something now to change the mindset of the businesses that are hiring, change the mindset of our community, and open the doors to this untapped talent pool that we often ignore.
We are talking with Jessica Bruner from Arouet, and you sit with us every day, and you mentioned kind of there's a cultural element to this. How about the societal element? Let's talk about, everyone's talking about you're either really, really wealthy or struggling. And that's rough for a nation that doesn't have a middle class. What is the middle class crisis that we're facing, or is it a crisis, or are we fine? What's the status?
Yeah, I think that it's time for us to look at the economic stability of our nation differently. Obviously, with many of the things that have transpired over the last couple of decades, we've kind of seen this middle class disappear. Mm-hmm. But I think that's not really the case. I think that the middle class is still here. I think that they're thriving. I think that they're just stuck in this economic picture that doesn't really exist. There are obvious income gaps, and they're vast now. They didn't used to be as vast as they are. But I think that what we can do is we can change and include some very necessary programming in our community and bring this other class of people, right? This lower income people. I think we can bring them into middle class, and then we don't have this kind of poverty marker anymore in our community by opening these doors and these lanes to this employment.
Well, so you're talking about solutions. Let's pivot. We've defined the problem pretty thoroughly. Now let's pivot to the solutions. So this is really what you're doing with Arouet. Part of it seems, is making people feel welcome, taking away some of the cultural stigma, and making these pathways into the trades as a way to get into this stable financial existence as well. So tell me about what you're doing at Arouet and how opening up that welcoming space for kind of newcomers is important. How is that going to matter? How is that part of the solution?
Yeah, so Arouet is a nonprofit here in the Valley. We provide reentry support to women who have been impacted by the justice system at some point in their lives. We do pre-release programming out at Perryville, which is the only female prison here in Arizona. And then we provide post-release wraparound services. And part of that is workforce development. We have a robust vocational training program, which is called CASE, Career Assessment Skill Enhancement Academy. And we are bringing women into an area where they can get certifications in many, many areas between business and trades. We partner with schools to enhance that training and create pathways in the skilled trades area. We graduated 9 women welders through a partnership with RSI last year, who are all very successful in the trade section. And we continue to grow and expand those programs in order to not just take people who have a desire to become positive, productive members of our community and give them the pathways that they need to succeed in that, but also to help our communities and our economy. 78% of people in this country are either unemployed or underemployed due to barriers to employment.
Wow.
And that number doesn't just include people with criminal backgrounds. That includes veterans and moms and dads returning to the workforce after their kiddos no longer need 24-hour care. And the same policies that keep people with a criminal background out of viable, sustainable employment are the same policies that block veterans and moms and dads returning to the workforce.
So wait, you're saying there are systemic barriers to say, are we talking about the incarcerated population?
Yes.
So what are those barriers? And how are you working to remove them?
Yeah, so there are 44,000 barriers, federal, municipal, and local, that prevent somebody with a criminal background from doing all sorts of productive things. It can prevent them from education. It prevents them from housing, and it prevents them from sustainable, viable, living wage jobs. And so nonprofits like Arouet are in this community, and we're educating people on these barriers. We are educating businesses on how to build safe, sustainable workforce programs to open up the pathways for individuals who fit into this bucket to get employment. And it's all about education. It's all about taking someone who has no idea what it is to be on that side of this community where you've got a criminal background, and teaching them what it is to come from that to being a productive member of our community.
Right. So the people creating the barriers, writing the laws, putting these strictures in place, they've never been on that side.
Correct.
So you're trying to create that pathway to empathy and saying, because it seems to me there would be some social benefit, right, to having people who are currently incarcerated reenter society, become productive, and close this gap that affects us all, that affects the affordability crisis we're so obsessed with these days. And I would imagine it would even lower recidivism.
Oh, yeah. So on average, Arizona sits at about a 40% recidivism rate. Arouet, we did our 3-year review, and we are under 2%.
Under 2% from 44%.
Correct. So what that tells you is, mind you, we serve about 600 women a year through our program. But what that tells you is that if there are robust reentry programs and workforce programs that are providing this holistic wraparound service to individuals coming out of the prison or jail system, and those individuals find viability in productively moving forward with their lives, they stay out of prison. And people who do not find that pathway, find that help, struggle. I got rejected 84 times before I finally found sustainable employment. And I don't know many people that would take 84 rejections and keep trucking.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have to look at what it is that we are telling people who commit crimes. Are we going to say that you have a life sentence no matter how long you stay in prison, and we're never going to allow you to live a normal life and be productive in our communities? Because if so, then we can no longer raise the white flag and say that we're tired of crime, right? Or we can say, okay, we're going to accept the fact that prison is a timeout, that you're going to have to learn something, that there are so many programs running in our prison system today that can prove rehabilitation and change. And we can utilize those programs and the participation of those programs to show growth. And then we can take that and we can put that into what it means to successfully reenter into our communities and show a true second chance pathway.
And that's looking at a prison system as a rehabilitation system.
Correct.
Not just a punishment.
Correct.
And there's a social benefit to that.
There's a huge social benefit.
Because otherwise it's a underutilized resource, human resource.
Correct.
So let's talk about, we're talking about a prison population, but the other kind of underrepresented aspect of this in the trades is just women.
Yeah.
How much, what's harder? Was it harder to sell people on the idea, let's give people who have been previously incarcerated a chance, or let's create a pathway for women? What's the harder sell?
I will tell you that in the state of Arizona, construction companies and trades are all for women coming into this industry.
Really? Okay.
Oh, they are excited. They're on fire about it. They want women in this industry. And so the hardest conversation to have is why you should take someone who is just as impacted and give them that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I get I understand the hesitation, right? These are businesses who have a reputation in this state of good service and safe service, and you are giving someone keys to that kingdom.
Right.
And so having the conversations and kind of relieving that stress and that worry and letting the public know that when Jessica Bruner comes to your house to work on your air conditioner, I am not thinking about anything other than doing my job, doing it well, and providing you with the best customer service. Because at the end of the day, I just want to live my life the same way that you do. Mm-hmm. I want to wake up every morning and I want to go to work and I want to pay the many bills that come into my inbox. And I just want to live. I don't want to be stuck in this perpetual cycle that we seem to stick people in.
We are talking with Jessica Bruner. She is with the nonprofit Arouet. And tell me about what happens when you have these categories: women, people who have gone through been incarcerated. What are employers telling you about the people who are given that chance, given that training, given that support, and given that chance? Are you getting good feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. So the data is in, and what employers will say is that when they have a well-developed program within their HR department to bring individuals with some kind of background into their business, their retention rates are higher, their work ethic is higher, their commitment to the company is much higher, their morale is higher, their teamwork is higher. We have had great success with the businesses that we do partner with in the state, with getting women and individuals with backgrounds into these companies, and they are just thriving. And so there's so much benefit to all businesses in the state of Arizona to be a part of this solution and this movement to build out these programs and put these people to work. Because I will reiterate that although my mission and Arouet's mission is specific to women who have had some type of dealing with the justice system, we know that the same policies that are keeping that population from employment are the exact same barriers that keep veterans returning to the workforce from employment, and moms and dads who stayed home to raise their kiddos until they were old enough to go to school all day and now need to go back to the workforce. And so we know that when we can reduce these barriers and change these policies and build these programs, that we're opening those doors for so many people in our community who are ready and able-bodied.
And you're helping address that employment gap that we were talking
Absolutely.
about at the beginning. So let's talk, too, about, we've been very general.
We have.
And I know that, in the nonprofit world, I've had some experiences myself where it's about individuals. It's about the impact on an individual life. Is
Absolutely.
there a story that sticks with you in your work with Arouet?
Yeah, absolutely. I won't use any names, but we did have an individual come in for our services, and she had 3 young children at home. Her husband, who had been raising those 3 young children while she was incarcerated, and so she comes home. She enrolls with Arouet. She's participating in all of our wraparound services. She's going through our vocational training program, and she is struggling at home with trust issues. And so we literally were able to bring her whole family in and help them through what this looks like now. what life looks like after incarceration, in sobriety, and they are a thriving family. We were actually able to even help her husband get sustainable employment through some partner relationships that we have. And so they're both working, their kids are thriving, they have their own home, they've got 2 vehicles, they're just a thriving family. And that is what it takes. I talk about this population as a whole because it is a whole population. You're talking 37,000 people are currently incarcerated in the state of Arizona, and about 17,000 people come home every year in the state of Arizona. That is a lot of people, right? But every person that we deal with at Arouet, we are centered on that person. And we are building out a program and a service to that person to get them to what their idea of success is. And we're doing that with every single person individually. And as a whole, we become this community that is successful.
It's, in aggregate, it's all a bunch of individuals, and what an impact. You must feel so good at the end of a day with your work.
Yeah, it's never ending. I just gave you those numbers, so it's never ending. But I told myself coming back into this community that I was going to live every day of my life in a place of service as my way of atonement for the decisions that I made over 20 years ago. And what a great area of service to be in, to help one person not have to go back to old behavior or old decisions and find success in a new life with a new start is something that is just not, there's no words to describe how much that makes me feel good.
Obviously mission driven.
Yes.
How do you cast your net? How do you get women to know you exist and become involved in and avail themselves of your service?
Yeah. So again, we do some pre-release programming. We are embedded with ADCRR, Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry. We've got a great relationship with them, and so we have a program that we run out of the Second Chance Center out at the Pierreville Prison. We also go to job fairs, we go to resource fairs, we go to halfway houses, transition homes, and talk to their participants. And so we're in the community. We're doing stuff like this, and people hear us and they reach out. And at the end of the day, there isn't anyone in this community who struggles that doesn't deserve to have at least one person say, I believe in you, and I know that you can, and so let's just figure out what that path looks like.
Is there a light bulb moment that you witness where people say, my gosh, a skilled trades is this path I hadn't considered, and you just see it kind of ding, where it connects? Yeah.
So actually one of our our welder graduates, while she was still going through the training, we were able to get her into a construction company doing punch-out work. If you don't know what that is, it's the final touches of a residential area or a commercial building where they're just kind of going in and doing all of the final touches before it gets handed off for occupation. And so she started working in this area, and she called me one day and she goes, this is the most satisfying thing I have ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. I'm literally the last person outside of the cleaning crew to go into somebody's future home and do these small touches and look at the end result. And then I get to see people moving into homes as I'm moving through this project. And I know that I made that home clean and pristine for them so that they could have that place. And so, and she's doing so well. She's actually moved up in the company now, and she's doing other things. And so that right there is with any of us, though, right? I got a job at McDonald's when I first came home, but I was so rewarding, right? And so I think that there's just it's a different mindset. It really is. And I hate to say it's like us versus them, because I don't believe that. I just feel like when you've been in a societal timeout and you've had all of your decisions made for you for mm-hmm. any length of time, when you come out and you get to make your own decisions and they're the right ones and they're positive, the outcomes of that are so rewarding.
And whether we realize it or not, we will all benefit from that change in approach.
You will, yeah. You've got one less person going into the prison system. I'm gonna throw out another number for you: $3.4 billion. That's with a B, $billion a year. That is the budget for the Arizona Department of Corrections, Rehabilitation, and Reentry. Taxpayers pay for that budget, and it's not going down.
Well,
right?
But we could shrink that
But you
budget
can
by shrinking the
shrink it.
population.
Absolutely, you can shrink it.
And one of the ways you shrink the population is by having, recidivism is a $10 word, a specialized word, but it's basically mean people going back.
Yes.
They get out, they go back. They get out, they go back. And a lot of times you've heard it's been the stereotype that once you're on that cycle, it's hard to break out. You're helping people break out of that.
Yes.
And that's one of the most efficient ways to shrink the incarcerated population.
Yeah,
and shrink that
absolutely.
taxpayer bill.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you that if you are an employer in the Valley and you are listening to this show right now, I will tell you that you have the ability to be a part of the solution, and you have the ability to build sustainable programs within your organization, your company, to help us reduce the population, help us reduce the number of people that go back into incarceration. And eventually we will see the impact in our state taxes, and we will see the improvement in other things that kind of get ignored or take a long time to get addressed because we have to sustain these other budgets for public safety.
Well, and if you're talking to employers, what kind of an employee are they going to get? Are they going to get a grateful employee that's going to work their ass off? Yeah.
You're going to get a loyal employee, right? I will tell you that I have an individual, let's say I've been with Arouet since the beginning of 2024, right after I came home. And this individual got a job at a landscaping company here, and she is still there. She won't leave. She will not. She has worked her way into promotion and raises, but she will not leave that company. She is loyal to a fault to that company and that owner because he gave her a chance when nobody else would. And so she's an invaluable employee to him, and she's got that retention that every employer wants, because one of the reasons why we see such a gap in talent in the Valley is that we have all of these people retiring.
Right.
They're aging out of their jobs, and there's nobody that has been behind them to learn those skills.
Yeah.
So,
and also, if you're an employer, churn is expensive.
Man, it is.
Retraining and onboarding is expensive. So you get a loyal employee who's going to stick with you. So if employers are listening, this is
the way to go.
It's an opportunity.
It is.
Absolutely. At least one leg of the stool for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about how you have to recruit these women. Do you have to convince them that they're a fit for the skilled trades? Do they have any preconceptions about, well, this is a guy's job? Or do you have to do some recruitment or education within these environments?
No, it's so funny. So when you're incarcerated, anything that needs to be done around the prison is done by the inmates working. So all of the swamp coolers or air conditioners that have to be repaired are done by women workers. Everything that you can think of, all construction, painting, anything that you can think of, plumbing, electrical, it's all done by women working on work crews inside of the prison. So the prison is self-sustaining. We don't have outside contractors coming in to do these things unless it's a very big project. And so most of these women are coming out with these skills anyway.
Okay.
And so it's not really a hard sell to get them to want to be involved in this sector. What is probably the most difficult is getting them to accept the climb. Everybody's got to start somewhere, and then we've got to climb into those roles and pay gaps that we want to be in. And so sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle to say, look, if you're going to come in here, you're going to start at in this pay range, and you have the ability to move yourself around in the company and move yourself up. So sometimes that's a difficult conversation, but not always.
So now, just more generally, how would you sell both to young people who are considering their career options, but also, and this is pretty crucial too, to the parents who have just had it beat into their head that the only way for your child to succeed is to go get that 4-year degree. How do you sell it to the kids? How do you sell it to the parents? That a life, a career in the skilled trades should be on the table.
Yeah, I would implore you to think about this. Construction is not just wielding a hammer or getting onto a scaffolding. It is project management. There's technology involved as people are using LiDAR and other AI scanning tools to manage projects. It's civil engineering. There's so much trajectory and growth. Man, you can own your own business, right? There's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurship and owning your own business in the trades and construction. And so I would say that if you're a parent and you're worried that your child is going to go into a dead-end career by choosing to be in the construction field, you're wrong. There are just so many things that they can do, and there are so many opportunities there. And it is a way for them to be a part of the growth of our community and the embetterment of our community. And then for the kiddos, man, take advantage of shop class if it's around. Take advantage of whatever trades or construction programs. I know so many high schools have these trades and construction programs going on right now. Go in, see what it's about. Don't let your mythical opinion of the field stop you from going to see what it's about and see if you love it. Because I am of the school that you have to do what you love, otherwise you're going to be miserable. So don't be miserable. Go check it out.
And if you don't check it out and you don't try it and you don't realize how satisfying it is to get your hands on and be tactile and be physical in your job, which is for a lot of people, they don't want to be in front of a computer screen all day.
For sure.
And so if you don't try it, you're not going to know that this is a trade up.
Yeah. And I just say, like, man, I would tell you that nothing that you enjoy in life did not first come from you taking a chance at trying it. Yeah. And so it's not just because you try something doesn't mean that it has to be the path that you go on. I'm 44 years old. I'm just now getting my master's degree. So it's never too late to decide what you're going to do when you grow up, right? And so I just try it. It's so satisfying. I like the do-it-yourselfs all the time at my house, and as soon as it's done, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. So just try it. It's not the end of the world if you don't like it, and we need people. We need people that are dedicated and skilled and that love it.
And through your work, other nonprofits, other people that are kind of beating the drum, such as our podcast, for instance, Skilled Nation, are we making any headway? Are we changing the perceptions on the skilled trades?
Yeah, I think we are. And I think it's just about education and letting people, they don't know. People don't know that there are nonprofits like Arouet in this community that can help you. Yes, we're participant focused, but we're also building relationships through our Unlocked Business Solutions program, which is what I oversee, where I'm literally walking with employers through all of their fears, their policies, their procedures, building out sustainable programs, pilot programs, walking with them through this whole process so that we can create these sustainable workforce pathways. There are so many nonprofits in the Valley that are doing programs to help businesses navigate how to create viable workforce programs so that they can fill these talent gaps.
All right, you're talking about partnerships. Tell me about how Arouet partners with organizations and how, if someone's listening and they want to create that partnership, how does that work? What's step one?
Yeah. So again, business partnership manager is my official title here at Arouet. That is just a fancy way of saying that I get to get out into the community. I get to talk to businesses. I get to talk to organizations about what this population is, who they are, what this skill set is, and what that dedication is. And then I get to talk to them about how we build sustainable workforce programs within their companies to bring people like the community that I work with, into their business to fill their employment gaps. And what that really looks like is a conversation. Be honest. Let me know where your fears are. What are your concerns? They might not all be false or mythical. There might be some legitimate concerns there, and then we can do a risk assessment, and we can really look at what is the risk to reward for every trajectory that you have within your business. I am of the belief that every single person who owns a business has a job that someone can do, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the people will start as your janitor. If there's a way to climb the ladder and move up to the next thing within your company, they will take out your trash just to have that opportunity. And so it's about education. It's about having a conversation. It's about looking at HR policies and finding out where the barriers are in policies. Most policies are antiquated. They're not updated very often. And so it's just about looking at all of that information and trying to figure out what barriers you may not even know exist. And then your ATS systems, these automated systems that look at resumes before they ever see a human eye. You're missing 80% of the people that apply for your jobs, and those 80% are probably the most qualified. So we need to maybe look at how we're screening people for job postings, what information we're putting on job postings, and then figuring out who in your community is involved in your community and how can you partner with them so that they can help you help this community.
Right. A little bit of matchmaking there with people with boots on the ground. And you're right, the ATS systems that are sorting through resumes and looking for keywords, that system is broken and everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it.
And they don't know how to move off of that. I do want to, before we start giving information on how people can find you, what are the big objections that you hear? I mean, I'm going to role play and think, okay, I'm a small business owner. My margins are this big. I don't have a much margin for error. I want to go with the safest employment choice possible. And here's somebody who must have wound up incarcerated for a reason. Maybe they stole, maybe they what. And I have to avoid any kind of reputational damage or someone stealing from me or somebody. How do you address those? What are the common objections and how do you address them?
Yeah, so a lot of businesses, that's their first go-to is that you have an individual who has obviously shown that they don't follow the rules. Mm-hmm. And so this idea is that Joe over here, who doesn't have any background, is a much safer option. But I will implore you to talk to any business who has ever been embezzled from or ever had anything happen within their organization or their company that has been newsworthy, if the person who did it had a criminal record or not. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that every business, no matter who you hire, you're taking a chance. Mm-hmm. And I cannot get behind this idea that just because somebody found themselves in a circumstance or situation that brought them to one of the lowest points in their lives of going to jail or going to prison, that person is innately damaged and will always choose that behavior over doing the next right thing. The other barrier that is very legitimate is that people who are impacted by the justice system do have these huge barriers put on by the justice system that is really hard for employers to understand. They have curfews, which kind of prevent them from working certain shifts. They have community supervision or probation, and there are requirements that go along with that. You have to go to see the individual that is supervising you always during the day, during work hours. There's drug testing, and drug testing is only from one time to another time, Monday through Friday. And you have to go when you're called to go do those things. And so educating employers on what that process looks like and letting them know how we can work with community supervision and probation to eliminate some of that workforce interruption. And then the other thing that I think is a huge barrier is, what will my constituents think? What will my customers think if they find out, right? And so we have to face that. We have to face the fact that for Arizona has historically been a community that has voted in favor of harsher sentencing and harsher punishments towards individuals who commit crimes. We have always kind of been in favor of this punitive mindset as it relates to individuals who find themselves on the wrong side of the law. And I'm not discounting where that stems from. I don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other. What I will say is that we are at a point now where 1 in 3 Americans has some type of criminal background. And so I think it's time for us to really start looking at what does reentry look like and how can we reduce the stigma with your customers? How can we highlight the successes? And I think that businesses who are already doing fair chance hiring or are already involved in this need to do a better job of advertising the good that is doing in their communities and the satisfaction that they're receiving for being a fair chance employer or for being a second chance provider.
So you're very clear-eyed about what the perceived risks are, even clear-eyed and honest and transparent in terms of saying, yeah, there risks exist, but at the same time, there are benefits that are being undersold.
Yes.
Okay. What can we do to tell people about how to get in touch with Arouet if they want to partner or if they want to avail themselves of your training or services?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is arouetempowers.org, and that's AROUETEMPOWERS, arouetempowers.org. We do have a contact me form. You can fill it out. It'll go directly to me. Or you can, our phone number's there too. You can give us a call. We answer our phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's, even if you don't know that this is the trajectory that you want to take, call us. Let's have a conversation. There are many ways that you can get involved.
Fantastic. This has been I've learned a lot in this conversation. Jessica Bruner from Arouet, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
The talent gap is not just about open jobs, it's about the future of our economy and who steps in to build that future. From empowering women through workforce training to creating opportunity for those ready to serve again, solutions are already taking shape. This is Skilled Nation, way of life, badge of honor.